So today we're going to talk about content marketing presented by moi, and I'm the creative director at Mana Means Communications in downtown Honolulu. We'll be getting to know each other a lot more during our one-on-ones. Excuse me. And why isn't it letting me move? There we go. So basically, content marketing is an aspect of marketing where you're not trying to sell you or your products or your services, but you're trying to create content that people will find of value, and position yourself as what we call a thought leader. I'm pretty sure some of the previous teachers have already mentioned that during this cohort. So you're already familiar with the term, and now we're going to get into what that means and why you should become a thought leader. So the most important thing to remember about content marketing is that it's about the customer and not you. And this is something that is actually true of almost all marketing. So for those of you who are maybe reviewing your web content, the text or any of your marketing, anything that you write or design, if you're right now you're doing, we do this and we're about this, you want to switch that around. So it's not just about content marketing, but in general. Sometimes I'm redesigning a website and the content, the writing is beautiful, and sometimes the only thing I need to change is the pronoun. So instead of saying we, it's all about you, and the you is your customer or client. So for content marketing, you might want to think about what this person wants. And so that's the main basis of content marketing. And I'm probably going to say this a few more times. The other thing is, the last time I taught this class, it was exactly 3 hours and I was kind of rushing at the end. So at some point, I'm going to skip over some slides that you can look at later, okay? So as I mentioned, thinking about your target's audience needs first is one of the main items to remember about content marketing. And you want to pull in customers with relevant content instead of one size fits all. And content marketing is a two-way conversation instead of just a monologue. So when you're doing a sales pitch or you're running an ad and you're just talking about yourself, that's just you telling people about yourself. But when you do content marketing, that you can create a conversation. So if you put up something interesting on social media, that gives people a chance to respond and engage in conversation with you. And this is wonderful if you can get people to interact. Using relevant content marketing builds your credibility with your target audience. And this is what being a thought leader means. So whatever it is that your business does, you want to be seen as a source for information on that product, service, or the industry in general, and not just about your company. One thing that's wonderful about content marketing is that it's dynamic and easy to change. Unless you've published a book and it's already out in the stores, but most of you are not doing that. Most of us are online. And that's one of the beautiful things about the internet, is that if something's not working, you can stop, you can take it down, you can edit it, you can reformat it, you can redesign it. So that's a really wonderful aspect of content marketing. Content marketing helps maximize word of mouth referrals. So whereas some of your content that is just about you and your company might be shared by really happy customers and clients, right? Your real loyal base. But content marketing is going to get shared because you're presenting information that's interesting, and somebody will see it and share it with their friends, not because they're sharing information about you and your company, but because you have provided them with information they think other people will enjoy. They'll see it came from you. And if they see it twice or 3 times, they think, maybe I should follow these people because they are giving me information that I find interesting. And then you're in front of them, you're in front of their eyes, and they can start to get brand impressions about you and your company and what your values are, what your products or services are. So you can think of it as a way to just make yourself, your brand awareness expand without actually talking about yourself. It's relatively risk-free unless you do something really stupid. And yes, people do really stupid things all the time. It's pretty much risk-free. So Right now, our country is going through some dramatic things, and some people might want to avoid politics, and some people might be doing that as a way to represent who their values are. So there is some risk involved if you decide to take a stand on things, but that stand you're taking is also going to inform people of what your values are. So it's your choice. I just bring that up because there is some risk there. And finally, one of the most important things to remember about content marketing is that it doesn't end with the sale to a customer. They continue to follow you. You continue to provide them with great information. They continue to share. And again, your brand awareness continues to expand. So this is really fun. It's a little history of content marketing. We think of it as a new term and something that people have just started doing, but in fact, it's been around for a while. In 1895, John Deere, the manufacturer of tractors and other farm equipment, started publishing a magazine called The Furrow, which was written for farmers. And by 1912, it already had a circulation of 1.4 million. Now, of course, they're talking about their products in the magazine, but it wasn't just a big brochure. They were helping farmers, and that's why the circulation went up so quickly. In 1900, Michelin created the Michelin Guide. Now, you all know it now as the go-to for the best restaurants on the planet, but Michelin actually makes tires. And back when they first created their guide in 1900, not a lot of people had cars yet. Or if they did, they didn't know what to do with them. So Michelin created a guide to get people on the road and to take road trips and to enjoy traveling by car. So that original guide included little spots to see, restaurants, and other things to enjoy along the road. And the first 35,000 issues of the first edition were given away for free. It's not free anymore, and it's a huge thing to get even one Michelin star. And when you hear the word Michelin, you might not even know that they make tires, and they still do. So this is content marketing like to the nth degree. In 1897, Jell-O was invented, but it didn't sell well at first, and people weren't sure what to do with it. So in 1904, they published a free recipe book, and it hit $1 million in sales by 1906. And we all know what Jell-O is now, and we all know how popular it is. And I'm pretty sure every single one of you has eaten it. I like the strawberry banana myself. And then my last example is that in the 1930s, Procter & Gamble, who were soap manufacturers, created a first radio serial program in order to sell their soap Oxydol. And it grew to be so popular that it became to be known as soap operas. And we all know where that got us, because soap operas are still huge. And most of the ads that go with soap opera shows are accompanied by ads that usually are speaking to stay-at-home people who are home watching soap operas as they take care of things in their home. This Lego is an example of really excellent modern content marketing. You all know what Legos are. In case you don't, you can make these little projects out of their tiny little plastic bricks. And they have, their content marketing includes microsites. And what I mean by that is on the right-hand side, you can see all the different themes that Lego has. If it could be, Batman or ninjas or Minecraft. I love Minecraft. And each one of these series has its own microsite. They might have their serial style movies running on cable and on the Lego website for all of these themes. There's cartoons, feature films. They've got a community platform, social network, a magazine. Oh my God, an amusement park just for Legos, and there are even Lego club meetings. None of these things I just listed have anything to do with their product. This is the community that they've built and the content marketing they've provided for all of their customers. I do not expect you to open up an amusement park. Ed, maybe you. So the purposes of content marketing, there are two basic types. There's informational intent, which is consumed as part of your audience's research or interests. So they might be interested in something that has to do with your company or the industry or your products or services. So when people are just researching those topics, informational intent will place you on their radar. And then there's transactional intent. And this is the type of content you create when an audience intends to complete a transaction. So below you'll see yet another funnel. You're probably sick of funnels, but they're a really good way to represent what's involved in the buyer journey. So at first, you're trying to create awareness of you and your brand, and your audience might be somebody who's a decision maker, but they're not really considering a purchase yet. They're just checking things out, and you've shown up on their radar. So then we get into the consideration stage, and between awareness and consideration, this is what we call the informational intent section. And this is when you are providing them with information because they're researching something, and you are going to convince them that you know what you're talking about and they should listen to you, not necessarily, again, about your company, but about your product or your service or the industry in general. But now they know that you're somebody that they can turn to for information. So, and you're building up trust with them. Then finally, when they've gotten to the point where they're actually considering making a purchase, you have to demonstrate to them how you're going to address their business needs and create a good partnership with them. And that's when you provide people with what's called transactional intent. And at this point, they're ready to take action and they can be converted into a buy. So, informational intent. That is designed to help people, to educate them, inform them, teach them, and yes, entertain them. Entertainment is always a good idea. I think one of my favorite song lyrics is from Ani DeFranco, who says, sometimes you have to get people to laugh so that their throats are open enough to swallow information. So there's always a way to entertain people, unless you have an extremely serious business. Informational intent should be created through your audience's lens and not your own brand, and it needs to be convincing. And it can be emotionally driven, because we are human beings, and we like to be emotionally engaged. So informational intent is the perfect time to engage them emotionally and not just intellectually with information. Some basic informational intent that helps teach people could be research and reports on your industry, anything that's paradigm shifting in your industry or with your products. And again, you're establishing yourself as a thought leadership, and how-to information is really effective at this point. The other kind of content marketing is known as transactional intent. And now, as I mentioned before, they're thinking about making a purchase. So now's the time when you want to teach people to learn more about your product or service, and you want to underscore the reason to purchase it. So basically, how is it that you are better than all of your competition? This is your opportunity to let them know what sets you apart from the others. So transactional intent should be factual and reflect your niche and reflect your expertise. At this point, you should, because you all took the SEO class, you're all checking your Google Analytics, and you want to look at the search terms. So one thing that you can do when you dig into your Google Analytics is to see what term did somebody search on to land on your website. And when you see the terms buy, coupon, discount, or shipping, these are people that are ready to purchase. And that will be a sign that that's somebody who's at that level of consideration and needs transactional intent. So you want to provide people at this point with case studies, partner success stories, if you're having any promoted events or demonstrations, brochures, advertorials. If you don't know what an advertorial is, it's something that's a cross between an advertisement and an editorial. So if you watch Honolulu News Now, that's my morning choice. Sometimes you'll see they'll have somebody go out and check out a new restaurant, and they're going, oh yes, everything's so delicious. The company paid for that. So it looks like it might be a piece of journalism because it's right there in the middle of the news, but that's actually advertorial content. So this is a point where you could be paying somebody to providing what looks less like a sales pitch, but actually is a sales pitch. So that's what advertorial means. This is a good time to share product reviews. Any of you, I'm sure, have shopped online. You probably like to look at the reviews and see what people are saying. Sometimes I have to scroll, because I can go to Amazon to buy something, forgive me, and I can see all those beautiful 5-star reviews, but I go straight to the number ones to see what they're complaining about, because that might be the main issue that I'm concerned about. So people definitely pay attention to product reviews. I'm sure you know this. So this is a good time to bring those out. And then this is also a great time to point out competitor comparisons. Now, one of the first rules of advertising is you don't mention the competition. Like, why are you giving them free advertising? So I do agree with that, unless what you're offering is so superior to your biggest competitor. You can talk about our competition, or other people may, and just, again, what's your niche? What sets you apart? What makes you better than your competition? This is the time to let people know. So how do you analyze content marketing? The main thing is you're going to be tracking your brand awareness, which means awareness of your brand name, awareness of your product, your service, and awareness of your brand attributes. That's making you distinguish from your competition. So it could be that you're offering free shipping when other people aren't, that sort of thing. So how do you measure your brand analytics, your brand awareness? So a really simple one is to run surveys. You can run a free 3-question brand awareness survey to see how recognizable your brand is and how your brand ranks amongst your competitors. I don't know if you all are on Facebook. I am, because I'm an old woman. And I often see little surveys coming in saying, how many of these businesses did you see through your feed this week? And they might list 7 businesses. And then I click on the ones that I've seen. I always participate because I'm in marketing. I'm teaching people to run surveys, so I have to participate. I'm morally obligated. But that's a really easy way for people to get those results. So when somebody runs a poll like that, they get it back and they say, oh, okay, so I'm running out of those 5 companies I listed, they see I'm in number 3. So the people above me are my highest competitors, and the people below me are, running right behind me. It's good information to have, and it's easy to do, and mostly free. You can track your post reach and your impressions in social media, and then use these metrics to plan your posts for optimum brand awareness. And what I mean by that, as an example, is I will, once a month, I analyze all the social media posts for our clients and determine which ones are the most popular. This gives me some idea of the type of content people are looking for. For instance, and I'll mention this later, something that's consistently popular are personal posts. So you could be making posts about your product or your services or the industry, and you might not even think that it's appropriate, but you can say, I took the kids out to Pearl Harbor on Memorial Day, and this was their reaction, and we talked about the history of it or whatever it is. But people love that. They love feeling a connection to you. This is what I was saying at the beginning with intentional intent, is that they want to feel connected to you, and this is an emotional connection. So that also includes things as it was our admin's birthday this morning, or we want to say thank you to our manager for 5 years of service, that sort of thing. So I can tell you right now, social media loves those types of posts. That might not be true for your social media, but the idea is to go check it, and don't just focus on numbers. What's also interesting to see and of value to you is how many shares. Remember, I was talking about how you can expand your brand awareness based on people sharing your content, and not necessarily something that's about you or your company, but seeing what people are sharing through social media tells you which content is that people are seeing the most valuable. Google Trends. So that's a whole, and at the end of this, I'll give you all the links, so you don't have to worry about it right now. But Google Trends can be used for your own brand awareness, as well as analyzing the industry and your competitors. So For instance, right now, if you're a small company, you might go into Google Trends and you're not showing up at all. And that's totally typical. Your industries, like Ed Hawaiian Sun might show up because it's such a big company already. So it might be a little easier for you, but for other people, keep checking for your company name through brand awareness through Google Trends. And then maybe it'll show up and maybe it's going to take a long time, but you can still be tracking your competitors and the industry in general. It's easy to set up and just check in. One little tip I'd like to give everybody in these cohorts is that you are now accustomed to coming to a class at least once a week. This cohort, it's sometimes twice a week. I recommend that you've already kind of got that rhythm going with your marketing, and that's the time that you've carved out to do this right now. So I recommend that you carve out 3 hours a week, just pick a day. That's when you're going to put efforts into your marketing, and that's where you're going to go check on your Google Trends. And you're going to go into your Google Analytics to see what's happening back there and why people are finding you to begin with. You also, since we're on Google already, you also want to set up Google Alerts. So this is really easy to do. You want to set up Google Alerts on your company, your brand, your industry. If you're really into it, you can put in your competition too. And every day Google goes out, they find any mentions of any term that you've added into your Google Alerts, and you get the emails. And usually you don't have to open up every one. You can kind of scan the subject line and see if it's something that might apply to you and what you're interested in, but you definitely want to set that up. And then again, once a week, go in and see what's going on. Another way to trend your brand awareness is through earned media. So earned media means that you didn't pay for it. So when you place an advertisement in the Star Advertiser, that's unearned media because you paid for it, right? But if somebody mentions you in an article in the Star Advertiser, or you get interviewed, or maybe you even, the person who set in the press release, you didn't pay them to post that, you didn't pay them to write that. That's what's called earned media. So anytime that you get mentioned in the press, online, anywhere it is, you can consider that earned media. And if you're tracking how popular you are and how many results you're getting that way, that again is a number about how much your brand awareness is spreading. So for our clients, we keep a page where we put down every single mention. So, we can justify our existence. So you should do the same for yourself, because one of the first things that you learn in public relations is that perception is everything. But reality is sometimes perception isn't correct. And you might think, gosh, we're just not getting any good press because it feels that way to you. But then you look back on all your press that you've gotten and you think, oh, actually, every month we're getting a little bit more and a little bit more, and it can be encouraging. So don't count on your own brain or your heart to have a feeling about how well you're doing with your brand awareness. Just take the numbers and track it. And then finally, referral traffic. So again, back to your analytics, and you can see, you can track how people are referred to your site. And if you see it coming, not just from a general search term on you or your product, but if people are being referred to you through articles about your industry, or even specifically about you, or just other websites that are referring people to you. So that would be considered referral traffic. And keeping an eye on that lets you know how well your brand awareness is doing with that regard. You might even want to set up a little spreadsheet and, just every month put in your numbers, and then you can track it and see what's effective and what's working well for you. Okay, so who is your audience? This is a very simplified explanation of the different types of audience archetypes. And of course, not everybody fits into one category, and we each have a little bit of ourselves in each one of these people, but it's good to create content that is appealing to each one of these types of people. So all of your content should not necessarily just be targeted at one person. And I know that we've learned how to create a customer persona and what your ideal customer is, who your existing customer is. But those people aren't going to be turned off just because you've created content for somebody not like them. Content marketing gives you the opportunity to reach a broader audience. So let's dive into the different types. The first one is known as the poet, and the poet wants to be inspired. And the type of content the poet wants are your values. And they want to see any kind of content where you're doing something a little differently. That's what we mean by paradigm shifting. Maybe your industry's been doing something one way forever, and you're doing it differently or in a better manner. This is the kind of information that the poet really wants to hear about. Poets are emotional and controversial. They can change their beliefs and their perceptions through you convincing them through the content you're providing. Poets are also progressive, and they're the first one to say something. I will tell you right up front, I 100% identify with the poet. I'm the type of person who will boycott you if you do something I don't approve of, but I'm also the type of person who, Joelle, if you're making products in packaging that I can get recycled or refilled, the poet in me, that's the type of person who likes to hear that sort of thing, because we're value-based. You can also lose me really quickly by doing something that I disapprove of. So the poet, we want to know, what do you stand for? Challenge me. Let me know, that we're aligned. So the second type is known as the professor, and a professor wants to be educated. So this is where your thought leadership and your expertise comes in, and you share with them. What you have to give is visionary, and they are looking for mentorship. They want to learn more about your product or your services or your industry in general, and you are here to teach them and guide them through what they need to learn. They will like research reports and data visualization. Data visualization is like a good graph or great. Gosh, what am I thinking? Like infographics, that sort of thing. That's the kind of data that the educated, the professor wants to hear. And the professor wants to know, teach me something I never knew about my role. So the professor's open to learn more, and you're there to teach them. The next type is known as the preacher, and they want to be informed. So the preacher wants to hear topical news and trends. And if you're still at that informational intent and you want to be teaching them about your industry and that sort of thing. So when I told you to set up those Google alerts and the industry alerts, this is the type of information you're going to redesign and rewrite and then bring back to the preacher. And that way they know that you're keeping them informed on what's the very latest in what you do. So the preacher loves a good listicle. If you're unfamiliar with that term, that is like the top 10 reasons you should buy from local Hawaii companies, or the top 10 best flavored chocolate, or whatever it is. And those are what's known as listicles. So the preacher loves a good listicle. Also really good how-tos and guides. An evergreen how-to means something that is never going to go away because it's always true. If you need to update your how-tos because something changes in your product or service or the industry, you have a chance to change that. Because as we mentioned, content marketing is flexible. The preacher loves a good checklist. So we have a client who does custom home buildings. So by giving a potential customer a checklist, like, yeah, I do want an ohana. How much outdoor space do I want? Yeah, a barbecue. Oh yeah, a pool, and they can check off everything that they want or need. And the preacher loves that type of content. They also love press releases and communications content, all of that kind of information where they get to stay on top of everything that's happening. The preacher also loves surveys and FAQs and Q&As. The preacher wants to feel more productive and successful, and the content you're creating for the preacher is going to get them there. And then the fourth archetype we have is the promoter, and the promoter's into action. and they want case studies and they want events and product call to actions. I'm sure you all have call to actions on your website. If you don't, you definitely want to make sure there's at least one on every page. You basically need to tell people what they should do next. And a call to action does that. So it could be learn more, or it could be buy now, whatever it is. The promoter wants to do something, and that's what call to actions appeal to the promoter. So if you're running ads or you've got special offers and reviews, all of these are the type of content marketing that excites the promoter. And the promoter is probably already interested in your services and solutions. Yay, another funnel. Okay, so this is a content marketing funnel, and it kind of breaks down the type of content you should be making for people as they go through the funnel. So at the top level, they see you for the first time. So this is brand awareness, and you're there just to entertain. So you want to be creating, it says create viral content. That's not something that you can just go out and do, but you want to think about what could be entertaining. And you also, at this point, could be running ads. So on Facebook and Instagram, it's so cheap to run ads as opposed to paying thousands of dollars for magazine articles. So I definitely recommend that you do not start running social media ads until your social media page is really strong. What you don't want to do is just put up your account and then start running ads. And then when people come back to your page, there's like 3 posts. Like, why on earth would they want to follow you when you haven't given them any information? So make sure your page is full of good content marketing and not just information about you and your company. And that's when you can start running some ads. So the ads can be fun, entertaining. You want to be letting them know your values and your tone. Remember the branding class. This is where all of that comes into play. So if you want to be an upbeat company, then your ads should be upbeat. And if you're serious and you're trying to make an emotional connection on a deeper level, then that's the type of tone your ads should take, but still at the entertaining level. So next we go down to what's called the education level. And this is when they now know who you are. Maybe they're already following you, or you're starting to show up more in their newsfeed because you're being so good about your social media and you're doing it regularly. And this type of content should be engaging, and it could be episodic educational content. So episodic, that just means like episodes, just like a TV show. So it could be, you know, we have one of our clients is Trust Systems in Maui, and they, one of the things we do for their social media and that educational brand engagement level is to teach people about the different parts of a trust and, you know, that sort of thing. And probably the people that are already going to be buying trusses through them know what a trust is, but it does give people a level of this. These are people who know what they're talking about. So this is when you're going to be building brand trust and likability. So now we're starting to get into the juicy stuff. And this is, you see it says do. So this is for that action guy, remember, the promoter. So this is when you can maybe start to generate some leads, and you're going to enchant them by giving them things. So it could be that you've got some kind of a freebie, like a webinar or an ebook or gifts or trials. One that I love to recommend is a really good PDF that somebody has to download to get it from you. So let's say if we offered a PDF, it might be like how to design your company logo. And then I would give them a document that maybe takes them through all the steps that I went through with you in the branding class. And sometimes you might be giving away the farm a little bit, but at the same time, it's also telling people, wow, that's a lot of work, and maybe I should just hire Laura, because now that I see what's involved, I can see the importance of having an expert do this. But I gave it away for free. But in order to get that download, you had to give me your name and your email address. Although it's also smart to just ask for the email address and nothing else. people are more likely to do that. Hey, I've got an email account set up just to ask for stuff like that, that's separate from my serious one, so that I can get all that stuff sent to that other email. But they have that email address, and now I'm on their newsletter. Now I've willingly signed up to get their marketing. So that's what that enchantment stage is. So what can you give away? What can you give away, right? Next, we've got the enrollment stage, and this is when you've got customer acquisition, and people are ready to buy. And that's when you're going to be providing an attractive offer that might drive the purchase, or maybe get more signups. And finally, you've got the customer and they love you, you've made them so happy, and we're at the customer loyalty stage. And it says enlistment because now this person is going to work on your behalf to get you more customers. And you do this by building loyalty and advocacy, and they've had such a great experience, and your content's so wonderful that they're sharing them with all their friends, and they're advocates for you. So, and hopefully repeat customers. So although the funnel kind of takes you step, it's not like you start your business and you start with entertaining and you move forward and you ignore all the previous roles. There's always somebody who hasn't heard from you, and there's always somebody who's just heard from you, or maybe they're already starting to follow you and they need to be convinced. So all of this should be happening all the time, every single level of this, and not just, it's not just linear, it's cyclical. So you just keep at this, and you always bringing in more people into the funnel through your fabulous content. So we just went through the funnel. So just to reinforce what's going on at the brand awareness level, you are creating awareness for your product or your service, and the content should be organic, authentic, and drive engagement. Once they're engaged, you want to create content that builds their trust. And this is when it's educational and episodic. At the point where you're generating leads, you want to encourage people to give up enough information about themselves that you now have permission to market to them. And this is when you might have a demo sign up, or register for a free event, or subscribe to your newsletter. Like I said, once they fill out that form, you have them. And you can, as long as they continue to like your content, you can continue to share that with them and hopefully get a sale. And then when you get to customer acquisition, you're going to provide what are called proof points to prospect an attractive offer to drive your purchase. So you're going to be providing them with case studies or testimonials and any content that illustrates why your solution uniquely meets their needs. And then finally, the customer loyalty, where you're creating content that creates value or reinforces the customer's decision after the sale. So what kind, how to get the most out of your product or service. Just because somebody bought your product or service doesn't mean they know what to do with it or how to best use it. So best practices, or something maybe you didn't think of doing it this way. Maybe you could take our lovely innocent juice and make an amazing cocktail out of it. And then you can provide them with content that tells them successful and innovative ways your product or services have extended to other solutions. So there are two basic types of content marketing. One is the creation, and that's the type of content you create yourself. Good for you, because you're so brilliant and interesting and creative, or you've hired somebody like me. You can have all this original content. And original content is important because SEO loves it. If you are repeating the same sort of content that other people are creating, SEO is going to catch that, and it doesn't ding you, but you're not going to rise in the listings just because you haven't provided anything original. We once had a client, we begged them to rewrite their website content, which they chose to ignore. But when I Googled some of the content on their page, I found it on 17 other websites, because all of those people had purchased the same template for their website, and they just decided not to bother editing the content because it was already provided to them. It was very generic, very search term thick. And as you know from yesterday or earlier this week, the search engines will catch that. They will know that you're not providing anything interesting or fresh. So you will get dinged. So I definitely recommend that you create as much of your original content as you can. That being said, the other main type of content is curated. So curated content is content created by somebody else and used with their permission. That doesn't mean you have to contact somebody to say, is it okay if I share this? For those of you who are old enough to remember, like at the beginning of the internet, we used to do that. Is it okay if I share this post? No, you don't have to do that anymore. It's up there. They're thrilled that you're sharing their information because now you're making them a thought leadership. But it also helps you build relationships. So that way they might notice, wow, they keep sharing our content. I should check out who they are. And then maybe they start sharing your content. And it's all a big, beautiful love fest on the internet. So types of content. We're going to go into imagery, video, interactive, infographics, social media, and e-newsletters. We might not get time for that. And, you know, I told Olivia that she didn't need to linger, but I just realized that means that I won't have somebody tell me when it's 9:30. So will one of you just pipe up when it's 9:30? We'll take a little break then. Okay. So again, I'm going to tell you this over and over again. You are not the target for your content. All right. Your audience is the focus, not you. So imagery, you're going to hear this again from everybody. If they're so important. Most people recall only 10% of plain text content 3 days after reading it. However, you pair that with an image, and now that 3-day recall rate jumps to 65%. That is huge. So no matter what it is, it could even be something really basic, you know, a block of color and fact. You know, even that is better than nothing. So try to avoid just pure text posts. Images rule everything. According to Publishing Analytics and Engagement Platform, Buffer Research, tweets with images received 18% more click-through rates, 89% more likes, and 150% more retweets. So I don't know if you're on Twitter. That's not always the best spot for all marketing, but if you are, please make sure you're using images everywhere. This might be one of those slides that I go through quickly because you probably can all find images on your own, and you can refer back to this when you get the my deck and see what I'm talking about. Everything here is linked, but you can use either purchased photography and graphics, or we've also got royalty-free. I'm not trying to pitch any particular company. We subscribe to iStock. And so we get like, I think it's like 15 free photos a month. And sometimes if I haven't used them up, then they build up. It makes, as a designer, it makes my life easier. Instead of spending a lot of time having to look for royalty-free imagery, I can just go right in there. I can create boards and collect things for use in the future. I very quickly want to just point out Creative Market. I love them. I buy graphics templates, clip art from them relatively regularly whenever I can't talk somebody into letting me do it. I love to do illustration, but the reason I'm bringing them out very quickly is because every Monday, if you sign up with Creative Market, they send you 6 free things. There's usually at least a font, there's some kind of template, maybe it's a PowerPoint deck, there's clip art, all kinds of things. So sign up for them now. You might not need them for a while. In fact, I was signed up with them and getting all those free things for a year before I bought my first thing, but never was I harassed. Never did I get any other newsletters. Maybe once a week I get something from them. So I love them. Royalty free. I'm going to just very quickly tell you that Creative Commons, which is originally an offshoot of Wikipedia. So Creative Commons, or people put up imagery that you can use royalty free. However, sometimes attribution is required, and it's really important that you pay attention to that because there are people that are called photo trolls who they will hire somebody. We found somebody who was hiring people in South America. He would pay them like $5 a photo, put them up on his Flickr account, and then say, Creative Commons, free for use. And you had to scroll down like a good 18 inches before you got to the part that said attribution required. And if you do not use that attribution, that person has a right to sue you. So just because something's on Creative Commons, just because something says it's royalty free, please, please, please check about attribution. And if you do end up having to use attribution, which I've done, it doesn't have to be a big announcement, you know, just in a font that text that is in contrast to the photo. So it could be like 6-point, you know, tiny little thing on the photo that says photo credit, ... Okay, video. I know you all know how important video is. So think about how you present some of your products and services through video. People love behind the scenes and guided tours. You probably think this is so boring. Even if you're doing something that's just in a boring office, just coming in, here's our receptionist, and here's person in purchasing, and here's like, people just love that. They just, again, they want to be connected with you. And when I talk about those popular social media posts, this is the type of content that's really fun for people. Don't you like a good behind the scenes video? Then, of course, you could do videos that talk about the free features of your product or talk about your services, promos and deals, user-generated content. So even though I told you to create original content, I also want you to take full advantage of any of your customers. If they're giving you videos or they've taken photos of your product or services, they're saying lovely things about it, share it, share it, share it, and thank them. And maybe, you know, give them a little discount or something for the next time they buy it from you. You can do giveaways and contests, announcements and reveals. People love a good new product. I think I talk about it later, but something that's really popular now, I don't get it, but it doesn't matter if I don't get it or if you don't get it. People love to watch unboxing videos. So if you have a product that ships, maybe you want to show, because they want to see what comes with the product that they're buying from you. And sometimes, and if people are smart, it's a lot more than what you just ordered. You know, I bought something beautiful from somebody in the last cohort. When I got it, there was a thank you note, there was a little piece of candy, there was a, you know, a little fabric swatch, that kind of thing. And if I were to do an unboxing for that company, then people would see they were getting more than just the scarf I ordered. So that's an idea. And then any interviews, Q&As, and live videos. According to Google, over 50% of customers search for explainer videos about products when they're about to make a purchase. I've done that after purchase too. I once bought a little fountain for my cats off of Amazon. When I got it, I didn't realize it had been returned and refurbished or whatever they want to call it. It worked just fine, but it didn't include the instructions. So I had to like YouTube how to use this product. So it's not even before, it's after. People want to know how to use your product. So create a video for that. According to Cisco, video is going to account for 82% of all internet traffic this year. The image that I've chosen right there is a company called Blendtec. They make that blender right there. And so their fun thing is, what can they stick in a blender and will it blend? And that is an iPad. So obviously people are not buying blenders to blend their laptops. But by making these videos, people watch them, they're really funny. Is it gonna work? And then they remember Blendtec, Blendtec, Blendtec. So one tip I wanna give you, and this applies to everything, all kinds of marketing, is to pay attention to videos and commercials that catch your eye. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this in my branding class. You wanna see what other people are doing, and if they have any ideas, you can steal. Sources for videos, again, iStock, Pond5, those are both that we pay for. If you do get a subscription to iStock, they will send you every month a free one. And the same with Pond5. They also have a lot of royalty-free videos, especially historic stuff. And I don't know if your company could ever use something like that, but it's quite possible that you can. I did a really nice little video for Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday that had all the historic videos from his speech. And you know, his big famous I Have a Dream speech. All of that was free because Pond5 has all that historic footage. So that's really fun. Okay, another type of popular content is interactive. So a multi-generational media consumption showed that a third of Gen Z respondents expressed a preference for articles that contain interactive features, such as polls or quizzes. So the first type we have here is a calculator. This is for a company called ThredUp, and they sell used clothes or consignment, which I guess has a nicer word to it than used. But this calculator, when you take it, it tells you how much your need to continue to buy brand new clothing is impacting the planet. So this little calculator can tell you like how well you're doing as far as respect to the earth when it comes to buying your clothes. So great calculator. I don't know how you can use a calculator for your business, but maybe you and your team can have a little brainstorm and figure something out. The next one, polls. I mentioned this at the very top. People love to take a good poll. It's fun when you get the instant results, like on Twitter. People do polls all the time, and you can't see the results unless you enter the poll. So that's kind of fun. I love this graphic. Some people aren't so excited about polls. Totally understandable. Nobody's going to not buy from you because you used a poll. And then the third one, of course, are quizzes. Some of them can be super fun, and some of them can be serious. And there are plenty of ways to come up with a quiz and to interact with people. Infographics. Infographics are huge because they're memorable and engaging, and they simplify complex concepts or ideas, and they increase knowledge retention. So people are more likely to remember charts and images and other infographic elements much more effectively than text-based online content. It also is an opportunity to build your brand awareness and raise your credibility. This is an infographic I created for Rotary. All of this information is something that we could have put in a text-based post and maybe had a photo of a child getting a polio shot. People still get it in other parts of the world. But by presenting it this way, and again, back to branding, using the Rotary colors, you can get all that information and kind of slide through it and get all that information in a little faster, and you might remember it a little better. Like you might remember that 99.9% reduction. So ways that you could use infographics for your company include step-by-step guides for how to use that. The history of your company or industry, that could be really fun. Even if you are a brand new company, like the start of the idea, how I picked a partner, how we chose our name. Like you can do even something no matter, you know, I'm saying the history of your company, but history begins the day that you had this idea. So it doesn't mean a company that started in 1895. How to use your products or services, a great, wonderful infographic ideas. I'm not going to go into this, but later on, when you sit down to create your first infographic, these are the different types of elements that you might use in an infographic. And then, because sometimes the first thing you want to do when you create an infographic is, what is the data I'm going to present? And you're not going to do it all the same way. Like if you did it all a pie chart style, and you had 6 different pie charts, that's going to make a really boring infographic. So you want to put down the data that you're working with, and then come here and decide which type of actual graphic would best represent that data. So sources for infographic elements you can get from iStock or Creative Market. But if you're on Canva, and I think many of you are, Canva even has free infographic templates, as you can see below. I'm going to let you soak that in for a second while I take a sip. You can look at those infographics. And that way you don't have to hire somebody like me. You can just look at the templates that they're offering and think, maybe I could use one of these. It doesn't mean you have to use the exact graphics, but the concept might be something that resonates in you, and you can come up with a great idea for your company. Okay, social media. So you don't have to post anywhere and everywhere, but you do need to know where, when, and what you should post on each channel and what your efforts are meant to achieve there. So for each channel, you should be thinking about, or actually just in general for your company, like who should your content be the most relevant to? What benefits does your audience receive from your content? And then finally, what desirable and distinctive content experience can you consistently deliver? So when I say consistently, of course, it's always going to be high quality because it's you and you're awesome. But if you start off saying that, well, we're going to be doing tips every Friday, you better do a tip every Friday. Don't say you're going to do something regularly and then not do it. So that's definitely important. So don't commit to that if you can't do it. So another thing to consider when it comes to social media is that the audience you're reaching may not already be your customers, and content marketing gives you a chance to introduce you to potential new customers, and it helps strengthen your position as an expert in your field with your existing customers. So like I said at the very beginning, just because somebody is already your customer doesn't mean they are going to stop following you, right? You're continuing to provide them with content long after they've purchased you. Maybe they're going to purchase again and again. They'll be sharing that content. So when you think about the channels that you're using, you want to think about the following things. Who is using this channel and why are they using it? Is your content even relevant to that audience? For instance, if you're thinking about TikTok and that's pretty much a young audience, is what you have to offer going to be of interest to them? But again, as an old person, I never think you should just focus on the age group because I'm on TikTok and I love it. So there are some general guidelines, but nothing is, you know, a hard fast rule. Is this channel important for your audience? And what are the conversations like? So the type of conversations that you have on Facebook are very different from the ones you have on Twitter. And again, very different from what's going on Instagram. So all of your content has to be tailored to the tone of those conversations. Also, is your content going to be viewed as unique and valuable, or is everybody else already doing that? In which case people are just going to scan right past you. They're going to scroll right past you because they've seen it all before. So you have to think about what you're bringing to the party. Hopefully none of you have to worry about this, but you have to consider if the community in that channel will find it intrusive or irrelevant. So before you start posting somewhere, maybe you just want to spend a few days, you know, keeping an eye on it, on that particular channel and seeing what the tone is there and what kind of content is being provided, and look at your competition. We're always keeping an eye on them and see how people are reacting. So you could be seeing a post and say, oh, people are posting this or that, but unless you read the comments, you have no idea what the reaction is. There's a lot of content out there that is not well received, and you won't know that until you get into the comments. And okay, what should you be asking your fans and followers to do after they're engaging with your content? Ask them to share it, invite comments. Sometimes providing an open-ended question can engage a conversation. And sometimes you can be posting questions and trying to get people to talk back and they don't do it. That's okay. That doesn't mean you should stop trying. Eventually someone's going to be a chatterbox like me who's ready to chime in with their comments. There's nothing I love to give more than my opinion on something. Also, this is a chance to say, visit our site to learn more, or if you want to subscribe to your newsletter. But as I was saying earlier, calls to action are your way of telling people what they need to do next. Don't make them think of it themselves, like what next? Like if you've given them a little taste about your industry, they can learn more on this page on your website. If you are going to be teaching a class, a webinar, or throwing an online event, then sign up here. So not every post has to have a call to action. In fact, that can be really annoying. But if you do want them to do something, think about what that call to action should be. How are we doing on time? You know what? I'm just going to be smart and grab my phone. Oh, good. It's only 9:06. Okay, great. So now I'm going to go into the individual channels. You'll probably get more of this in the social media class, and a lot of this you may already know. But if you're new to this, or maybe you're only focusing on one channel, this might be some very important information for you. So let's start with Facebook. Almost 2 million people a day are on Facebook. The majority of American adults are on Facebook every day. I'm on there every morning and every night. That's how I spend part of my bus commute. Seniors are the smallest but fastest growing age demographic, and Facebook is their favorite channel. And I made my own reference to my age and saying how Facebook is for old people. But in fact, Facebook is reaching the largest number of teenagers. So it's important to, again, like I said earlier, to not just have a perception about something, but actually look at the facts. Because yes, older people like Facebook, but so do the younger ones. And probably part of that reason is because people see on Facebook, you have some control over the kind of content is being seen, and a parent might be more comfortable to have their child on Facebook than on Instagram or TikTok. Definitely not Twitter, where it can be a big war all the time and you don't have as much control. So keep in mind that teenagers are there too. Like I said, most adults log on to Facebook every day. That's me. And it's the most popular social network in rural areas. And here's a really interesting stat, which is that the majority of users are outside of the United States. And what's important to us here in Hawaii is that the Asia Pacific area is the most active region. So I know that we have an internationalization class, and if some of you actually already have maybe some Japanese skills, that's really a huge thing in your behavior. In our last cohort, we had the company Sweet Brown Hawaii. They make a delicious caramel. They happen to be a couple where he's born in America, she's Japanese, and their social media posts, every single one is in both English and Japanese, and they switch it up. So this post might start with English and end with Japanese, and the next one starts with Japanese and is followed by English. But they're really smart to do this because they have an amazing Japanese following. So Facebook is a really good place to be thinking about the fact that it's not just American people. And just because as Americans, we only speak English, that is not true for the rest of the world. If you have anybody who speaks any other languages that are in the Asian Pacific region, like take advantage of that. So the most popular types of content on Facebook are the following. A reminder why people are on different channels. People on Facebook are there to connect with each other. So other channels have different reasons for their existence or why people are there, and we'll get into that later. But on Facebook, they want to connect. I've listed these in order, but in fact, photos and videos actually share the top space for what's the most popular content on Facebook. This is kind of universally true. And obviously on Instagram, that's going to be big. But here in Facebook, photos and videos are number one, followed by entertaining. And I picked that one because it's somebody knitting pasta. How can you not be entertained by that? Then people want funny, followed by news and current events. And then finally is for support. And what I found interesting when I researched this is, and it made me happy and it restored my faith in humanity, which is sometimes challenged, but people are there to support other people. And then that's followed by people are on Facebook to be supported. So I kind of dig that. I like that people are on Facebook. One of the most favorite things they'd like to do is to help other people. So that could be you with whatever it is that you're providing, your product or your service. You could be supporting people that way. But just so you know that that's why people are there. Instagram, 500 million people a day. And by the way, I'm providing links in all of these stats in the deck when you get it. So you can go to Hootsuite and see all their numbers. I think some of this stuff is from 2020, but I did just review all this like a month ago and they hadn't updated it. I doubt so much has changed, but you can always go to Hootsuite and find out what the latest news is. So with Instagram, the largest advertising audience is those 25 to 34-year-olds. Those are all those people who have money and no kids yet, so they have all that money they can spend on your company's products. And then that's followed like just behind them by the 18 to 24-year-olds. 9 in 10 users follow a business account. So again, perception is that Instagram might be a lot of Insta models and beautiful people in their perfect little worlds. That may not actually be true, but actually they're not just there for that. They follow business accounts as well. So get on Instagram, provide the kind of content they're looking for, and get some followers there. Using the stories, the Instagram stories, 500 million users view those every single day. And then 90 million users tap on Instagram product tags every month. That could be you. So Instagram, people are there to pursue their interests. This is a little different from Facebook, where they're kind of there to connect. So on Instagram, the #1 most popular type of content is travel. And here we are in Hawaii. So you are perfectly placed to be able to provide content that people on Instagram are going to love, because yeah, Hawaii is our home. It's not travel to us, but it's travel to the rest of the planet. And no matter what it is that you do for your company, you live here. You could be having a staff meeting on the beach. You could be just taking pictures of the palm trees. You could be telling everybody about Lay Day that we just celebrated. Like, all of these things are Hawaii, 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 and people on Instagram will eat it up. That is followed by music. You may not be a musician yourself or have any original music, but if you can, obviously that's going to appeal to people on Instagram. #3 is food and drink. And the last cohort, we had a lot of more people making food. Ed, Instagram's for you. So food and drink is very popular on Instagram, followed by fashion, so including beautiful little handbags. So this is a great spot for anybody that's selling fashion and accessories. #5 is film. 6 is health and fitness. #7 is technology. 8 is skincare and cosmetics. Shout out to my friend Joy at The Potion in Canada, who makes this wonderful body scrub that I use every day. #9 is sports. And then finally, #10 is news. So Instagram, people are there to pursue their interests, and they're not as interested in what's happening in the news or the rest of the world. So this is your channel for, it could be a little lighter. You can be a little more self-focused. I know we're talking about content marketing, and I told you not to be, but people on Instagram don't mind as much, because they're there to self-promote. A lot of people like to self-promote on Instagram. So the rules don't apply quite as much to Instagram, and feel free to brag a little. Twitter has 166 million daily active users. Again, with an interesting stat is that more than 80% of Twitter's users live outside of the United States. But we do have the site's largest active ad audience. And just the audience in general is more active. But #2 is Japan. So just like I said with Facebook, here we are in Hawaii. We know how popular we are with the Japanese, and vice versa. You may have all heard our governor encouraging the Japanese government to encourage people to come to Hawaii, because we're more likely to have our masks on and that sort of thing. So it's a long-standing relationship we have with that country. And Twitter is another great way to engage with people from Japan. The largest Twitter age demographic are 25 to 35-year-old men. And I love this, 90% of Americans are familiar with Twitter, even if they don't use it. So that's pretty powerful. People can talk about tweet without have never been on Twitter ever. The most popular types of content on Twitter is news. And most people on Twitter are there for the news and for a little distraction. So the most popular type of content on Twitter is, surprise, surprise, critical topics. Yeah. I probably should update this. There's a lot more critical topics going on right now, followed by regular news, and then TV and movies, sports, and then finally cooking. So any of you who do anything with food production, Twitter is a great place. Twitter can be contentious. So this is, I mentioned something at the beginning as far as saying anything controversial. If you want to take a stand, Twitter's the place to do it, but you're also going to come under a lot of attack from people who disagree with you. So that's your call. And if you're feeling like taking a stand and making a lot of people really happy and a lot of people really angry, Twitter is your spot. And here we have LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is really important for any of you who are doing business to business marketing. It has over 675 million users worldwide. It's most popular with the old people. But really when I say old people, I mean established professionals. There are plenty of young people on LinkedIn, but a lot of people are on LinkedIn to connect and looking for mentorship or maybe people in positions they aspire to. As far as the gender breakup, both 25% of both men and women use LinkedIn here in the United States. The majority of them are men, and then 43% of us are women. So the most important reason that they're on LinkedIn is people want to help their own career, and they want to support their industry and learn more about their industry. So LinkedIn is a really great place for content that is very serious. So although you'll see as we go through the list, that's not necessarily always true, but you want to be highly professional here because it is business to business, and your competitors are definitely seeing you here in LinkedIn, and you do want to establish yourself as a thought leader. But it's also a great place for you to learn. So don't just pop into LinkedIn and make your post and run. Generally speaking, you want to be responding to anybody who comments on any of your posts, but pay particular attention in LinkedIn. You're going to learn as much as you teach in there. So the most popular type of content in LinkedIn are infotainment videos. So this is where you might be teaching people about your industry or about your product, but it's not going to be dry and straight. It does need to be a little entertaining and it has to be entertaining. And it definitely has to be engaging. So that's the most popular type of content there. Number two is relatable humor. So when I said that LinkedIn should be serious, it doesn't mean you can't ever have fun. Obviously not if it's the second most popular type of content. So relatable humor might be things like, I dropped off my oldest child, I dropped off my second child, and then I got to work and realized my youngest was still in his car seat in the back of the car, you know, like, oh yeah, you know, that kind of relatable humor. Usually, you know, people want to know that you're human, and sometimes on the internet and the world of social media, people are kind of posing a life that doesn't exist, and it's really quite clear here on LinkedIn that people don't need to see this perfected view that you're presenting like on Instagram. They want you to get real. So relatable humor will do that. Heartwarming stories. I see these a lot. And I have mixed feelings about it personally because I don't want to feel like people are emotionally manipulating me. Even though I'm that poet, I'm the one to manipulate, but I'm resistant if I feel like you're exploiting somebody's story to sell your product. But a good heartwarming story is obviously very popular with people on LinkedIn because that's number 3. Number 4 is challenges to wisdom. So what that means is, let's say there's some kind of standard practice in your industry. Let me pick the one I mentioned at the beginning when I said you don't, mention your competition. I work for an advertising agency, so I might put up some kind of content that says, here's 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 what we can do that Anthology can't do. I'm picking one of our competitors, and maybe and then I provide them with a really good reason, like because we're a boutique and we can pay close attention to you and we'll hold your hands, that kind of thing. But the fact that I'm mentioning my competitor's name, which is like a challenge to advertising wisdom, might be received quite well in LinkedIn. Questions. So like I mentioned earlier, if you can get people to interact with you, it's wonderful to get them to engage, and a great way to do that is to ask a question. And maybe you want to make it, you definitely want to make it interesting enough that people want to engage. You can also make it an either or. Do you think la 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 or la la la? And then people love to offer an opinion, not just me, and they might want to jump in, and you could start a really interesting conversation. So that's obviously popular on LinkedIn. Number 6 is data-driven perspective posts. So, and this gets back to those archetypes that I mentioned and how a couple of them really like data. So anytime that you can provide information about your industry or your product or service, that's going to go down really well in LinkedIn. How-tos, but then again, how-tos are popular everywhere, so I can't say that enough. If you don't have the bandwidth to be making a how-to video for your company right now, at least start thinking about what would be in it. At least write an outline. And it doesn't have to all be filmed in a day either. You could do it in different portions and edit it all together at the end, but start thinking about how you could do a how-to video for your own company. Personal stories are really popular. Sometimes I'm really surprised at how personal it can get on LinkedIn. I'm not sure I would feel comfortable doing that myself, because when you're on LinkedIn, you're always representing your company. And I know that's true everywhere else too, but it's more so in LinkedIn. And you can probably be given a little more leeway for personal information on other channels. But here we are, it's number 8, so people love it. Tactical tips. So again, this is for the people that are on LinkedIn because they want to learn more about their career and about their industry. So it doesn't even have to be about your industry or your company, but you can be talking about, so for instance, before I became a graphic designer, I was the office manager of a PR agency, and they thought that maybe I had a little talent, and they actually promoted me to become a PR account manager. But I told them, even before I was hired, in my resume, I said, I really want to be a graphic designer, but I was a single mom and I didn't want to be going to work all day and then class all night and never seeing my child. So I opted not to get that degree, but I let them know that this was something I wanted to pursue. So eventually the agency got big enough that we had to hire an art director. I spent a year, and every night I would come home, my son was there. I wasn't in class, but every night I was doing graphic design for free for anybody who would let me. And at the end of that year, I had a big portfolio of professional work. And when I showed that portfolio to people, nobody knew I wasn't paid. All they saw was, album covers and flyers and ads, all the things that I've been doing for people for that year. And my boss noticed, and I got to be a graphic designer. That's how my entire career launched, because I was willing to do that work for free. So a tactical tip, that's both a personal story and a tactical tip that I might share. I see artists all the time say, don't give away anything for free, but I'm like, I'm just the opposite. So maybe that's my challenge to wisdom, because the whole reason that I got ahead and I got to be in the position that I'm in is because I gave away all that work for free. And then finally, it's number 10, but it's still on the list, which is failure content. This is actually just like the relatable humor where, maybe the parent forgot to drop off one of their kids, or, all those silly things that you do all day, that you realize you've messed up somehow. And that's kind of content that people on LinkedIn love. Okay, So, Ed, thank you so much for the question you sent in chat. I don't know if everybody saw it, but Ed asked if it's okay to post the same content on all the different channels you're using. And yes, absolutely, that's okay. Sometimes I will post identical content, but sometimes, most of the time, I edit it a little bit. Sometimes it's because Instagram or Twitter is going to limit how much I can say, whereas in Facebook I can write a novel. But as we're talking about with each of these channels, LinkedIn, you might want to be a little bit more professional. Instagram, you can be a little more lighthearted. So just keep in mind the tone of the channel that you're in and who the audience is and what they may or may not enjoy. So, but absolutely post everywhere. Okay, so the next channel that we're going to be talking about here is Pinterest. 459 million monthly active users. It's pretty huge. The majority of people are women, but then men are its fastest growing demographic, probably because it would have to be. And women aged 25 to 34 represent 30.4% of Pinterest ad audience. Something to keep in mind with Pinterest is if you are going to have any kind of holiday sales or specials or that sort of thing, these young women on Pinterest start looking for holiday ideas and gift shopping 9 months ahead of time. So like you could already start to think about the holidays when it comes to Pinterest. And people that are putting links and information about their company on Pinterest and providing links to your shopping carts and all of that, weekly conversions have increased by 300%. So although Pinterest kind of started as, what's the term I want to use? Like a, what is it? That people do like a dream board and that kind of thing. It's gotten to be much bigger than that. And people shop through Pinterest right now. So definitely keep Pinterest in mind. But I also want to just comment very quickly about Pinterest outside of content marketing for your own use. And the way that I use Pinterest is when I see ads or collateral design that I like, I will save it on my Pinterest page so that, for instance, I had to do a trifold brochure. And I want to be inspired and see what other people are doing. Because like I keep telling you, feel free to steal ideas. So I do that myself. And even if I'm not actively looking for something, anytime I see something and I think, ooh, I like the way that ad looks, or even if I get a direct mail piece in the mail, like I hang on to it because that's my job, is to design these things. So I want to remember what it looked like. And then later on, when I have to design something like that, I can go back and refer to that and see, how they did it or what was it that I liked, and maybe I can take that idea and use it myself. So you can do the same thing on Pinterest. When I was telling you to make sure that you're paying attention to ads and commercials and everything that your competitors are doing, other people in the industry, not even in your industry, just in general, that might be a great place for you to have a Pinterest page just for marketing. And then anytime somebody does something interesting, you can add it to your Pinterest board and then come back when it's time for you to have your weekly marketing meeting and decide what you're doing. So the most popular, first I should add that people are on Pinterest because they want to feel positive. So this is definitely, I've never seen anything negative or hostile or bickering or anything like that happening on Pinterest. So this is definitely a feel-good channel. Number one, most popular type of content on Pinterest is art and art supplies and hobbies. Followed by flowers, food, drinks, and gifts. That's going to apply to some of you. Home, garden, and pool spa, health and beauty, clothing and apparel, entertainment, jewelry, handbags, and accessories, Renee, sporting goods, footwear, and baby gear. And, I don't want to generalize or stereotype about gender roles, but if you look at this list, it does look like a lot of very popular female interests. So keep that in mind. And if you have And also remember that the men are coming into Pinterest. So keep this in mind when you're using Pinterest and who might be using it. All right, and now we go on to video sharing, and I'm starting with TikTok. We all know about TikTok by now. To be honest, this is the third time I've taught this class, and the first time I was pretty dismissive of TikTok, I'll be honest. It just looked like a lot of silly nonsense to me that, you know, teenagers are using, and I couldn't really see the value in marketing. And I said all that without ever really giving it a try. So I now love TikTok. What I love about TikTok is that you have some control about what you're seeing. So I can follow the type of people that are sharing the kind of content that I like. And now I'm hooked. 100 million monthly people in the United States agree with me, and they're on there all the time. 48% of American adults between 18 to 29 years old use TikTok. The majority of users are there for funny and entertaining content. This dude off to your right here, if you haven't seen him yet, I don't know where you've been living, but this is the guy who was hanging on to the back of a truck, drinking his Ocean Spray cocktail drink and listening to Fleetwood Mac. And Ocean Spray earned 15 billion media impressions in less than a month because of this video. I believe he also got a lifetime supply of Ocean Spray and a new truck, if I heard correctly. This is just one little video going viral. That's a lot of people. And I do want to add, though, that even though it, you know, this says, and I'm telling you that people are there for funny and entertaining content, a lot of the people I follow are not there for just light entertainment or to be funny. I like to follow a lot of artists, so I like to watch them at work. I'm also very interested in people who are not neurotypical. So, and those are things that are not funny or entertaining, but I am learning something. I always like to learn from other people. So I've also seen a lot of business people now having TikTok. So you could be doing those how-tos we talked about or anything like that on TikTok as well. You don't have to think, what can I do that will be viral on TikTok? We can also change TikTok by the content we provide. So if you're making some kind of video that you're using somewhere else, go ahead and use it on TikTok too. No, you're not going to suffer, or your business is not going to get dinged because your TikTok videos aren't funny enough. Not when there's such a large audience. Take advantage of it. People are on TikTok to be entertained. So you want to try to create content that's funny and entertaining if you can, but being emotional and real and relatable is number 2. So this is what I'm talking about, like when I say that I'm interested in people that are maybe on the spectrum, and I want to hear what their experience is like. To me, those videos are emotional and real and sometimes relatable, and it's got nothing to do with being silly or funny. And then number 3, this is very important. It's called breaking the fourth wall. If you're not familiar with that term, it comes from actually first the theater, like an actual stage. So imagine that you're an actor on stage. You've got the scenery behind you, and to the left and the right, everybody out there. Those are considered the 3 walls, the ones behind you and to your left and right. But the people in front of you, the audience, that's considered the fourth wall. And you're not supposed to break it. You're supposed to not realize that you're being watched and that there's an audience. So in a lot of documentaries, I used to be a film editor for a documentary film company. And one of the rules was you ask your interviewee to not look at the camera. They're supposed to, you're supposed to sit a little off to the camera so that the person you're interviewing can make eye contact with you and it's not looking directly into the camera. But that is not the case on TikTok. People on TikTok want you talking directly to the camera, and you're breaking the fourth wall. Even if you haven't heard the term, I'm sure you've seen a lot of TV shows like maybe The Office, but that was more that was more because they were doing a mock documentary. It was easy to break that fourth wall because supposedly they're being interviewed, so it feels like the fourth wall. But there are other movies or TV shows where the person says something funny, then looks at the camera, and you're in on the joke. So that's what breaking the fourth wall is called, and that's what you want to do when you're doing TikTok. YouTube. YouTube is not only a huge channel for sharing videos. It's got 2 billion monthly users logged in. But it's also the second most popular search engine. I mean, they do belong to Google now, but after Google, YouTube is the second most popular search engine and nothing else. It's not Bing or something else, it's YouTube. So it's important to take it seriously. 74% of American adults are using YouTube. And it's the most popular online platform in America. So more than anything we've already discussed. So definitely think about what you can do on YouTube. 8 out of 10 18 to 49-year-olds watch YouTube every month. And YouTube reaches more people in that age category than any broadcast cable TV network. So people from 18 to 49 aren't really even bothering with TV anymore. They use YouTube for their entertainment. You can watch so many shows there. You can do so much there. And you've all been on YouTube before and get, kind of sucked into going down a line of videos that get more and more interesting. So this is why for a lot of younger people, TV is not of as much interest. Another good thing to know is that 2 out of 3 YouTube viewers watch on a smart TV. That could mean they might also be shopping there. So that also makes YouTube important to you. And then most importantly, YouTube viewing peaks at night and on weekends. So we've talked before about when's the best time to post social media and that sort of thing. I remember chiming in and saying that you should check your analytics. I'm always about those analytics. You want to see when people are visiting your channels, whenever that type of information is available, because you might think, oh, I'll post at noon every day. And then you find out that people aren't really logging in until after dinner. So that, like YouTube is perfect for posting at night. You can also schedule things ahead of time. So even though none of us want to work all weekend too, YouTube might be a good place to be posting on nights and weekends. YouTube, people are there to learn and be entertained. So it's a perfect mix of content, and you could be providing both of those things. Number one most popular type of content on YouTube are funny animals. I don't know that any of you have any kind of content relating to funny animals that relates to your business, but not everything you post has to be about your business. So you can always feel free to bring in animals. We have one client who has chickens are always showing up at their manufacturing facility. And I've used those chickens in plenty of social media posts, and they're really popular. People love those chickens. So you never know how you might be able to come up with a funny animal video. Second most popular are video games. You probably won't have any use for that, although I have created a Minecraft adventure map for somebody in connection with a film that they're making about imaginary worlds. So, I actually earned money playing Minecraft. So you never know how a video game might tie into your work. Number 3, and here we hear it again. I know I've already mentioned this several times, and I've also asked you to start outlining yours. So a how-to guide. There's always something that has to do with your business, your product, or your industry, where you could be teaching people how-to guides. And again, this is going to position you as a thought leader. Reviews. I believe I've mentioned reviews quite a few times here as well. So YouTube videos about reviews are very, very popular. And it would be great if you could maybe interview some of your favorite customers or clients if they might be willing to give a testimonial or be willing to do a review on YouTube. Celebrity gossip. God, I hope this has nothing to do with your business, but there it is, number 5. I I don't see how that really applies to marketing, but I'm sharing the information with you. Number 6, vlog. So that's a video blog. So if you're thinking about doing any type of blog, you might want to consider making that a video blog instead. It's going to be very popular on YouTube. And again, positioning you as a thought leader. Comedy sketches are number 7. There's Key and Peele, almost my favorite show ever. If you asked me to come up with a comedy sketch for your business, I could do it, but I couldn't do it off the top of my head. I'd have to think about it. You would probably have to do that as well. But number 8, shopping sprees are really, really popular. So something that somebody is planning on doing from a former cohort when we went over this is if you have a very loyal customer, even better, if you've got a social media influencer following you, you might want to say, hey, you've got $500 to spend in 15 minutes in our store, and then film them running around buying whatever they can and talking about their selections and that sort of thing. And that's what the shopping sprees are all about. And that might be something that you could think about doing. Number 9, unboxing. I told you these are popular. I don't get it, but people love it. So just, it's not a hard thing to do. You don't even have to get a customer to do it. You could do a video saying, this is what you'll get. Of course, it'd be perfect if you could get a customer to do it for you, because that gives it more validity. When you do it yourself, it looks self-promoting, which it is, but it's popular, so think about it. And then number 10 is educational. Sorry that it's number 10, but this is your chance to teach people something about what you do or about your industry. So YouTube's the spot to do that. So at the beginning of this, I said that when you're at the stage of raising brand awareness, that viral content is a great idea, but you can't just decide that something's going to be viral. It's something you don't have a lot of control over. So let's talk about what does make something viral. So positivity can make something really viral. So that would be viral. So that would be content that is designed to elicit a happy emotion. So I'm a sucker for laughing babies. Anytime I'm feeling sad, I just go on YouTube and search on laughing babies, because that fixes me like within 5 seconds. I'm also a big sucker for vets coming home and being greeted by their pets who haven't seen them in a year or something like that. So all these things make me really happy. They make a lot of people happy. So if you can think about what might bring out joy in somebody when you create a video, that's going to go a long way as far as possibly getting it to be viral. Also, what makes something viral is awe and surprise. So when people are in a state of awe, they are more likely to click on that forward or share button. So if you can think of something where people are just like, when they see your video, that's going to get shared. So is there a way that something you do can be presented in that fashion? Fear, anger, and anxiety can also make something viral. And this is the type of thing that it's content that will make the consumer feel fear or angry or anxiety. And it's possibly going to be shared because of what they call a high arousal state of the recipient. It might not always work, since social media kind of relies on positive content. But there are some industries that rely on that type of evoking that type of emotion. Like maybe if you sell burglar alarms or life insurance, and if you watch commercials, you'll see that that's often what they're trying to appeal to people, is to make them, so angry that someone's going to break into their home, they need a burglar alarm or that kind of thing. My personal comment that I'm not a big fan of this idea, but I am obligated to let you know that evoking these emotions can go viral. Whether or not that's how you want to market to people is totally up to you. But I'm not going to buy from you if you pull that on me, just so you know, because I'm a poet. And then utilitarian content. So although it has little or no emotional balance, content with practical utility is inherently shareable. It might not be emotionally contagious, but it can attract significant traffic and interest over time. So when, again, we're talking about those how-tos, but it's also, remember at the very beginning when I said that you already have a customer and how are you going to convert them into being an evangelist? And the fact that I said that content marketing doesn't end with the sale. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Utilitarian content besides a how-to could also be other things that you can do. So try to think of something that an existing customer could do with your product or service that is not just a how-to. So think about what kind of content you can come up with for an existing customer, maybe something they haven't thought of a way to use your product or service. And then good old-fashioned link bait. People on social media are fascinated by lists and they are heavily shared. I don't know if you noticed, like about a year ago, I think Facebook started putting up a little announcement that if you shared an article without reading it first, they kind of want to, you're sharing this without reading it first, but a lot of people do that with link bait. And I'm a big fan of a good list. For one thing, it gives me an idea of how long it's going to consume my time. So if I see a list, it's like the 100 best restaurants in Hawaii. Oh, I don't know that I might save it to read it later, but that's a lot to read. So, but when you tell me it's Cinco de Mayo, and if you tell me here are the top 5 places to get a taco on Oahu, I am going to read that because it's content that I'm looking for, and it's a nice short list. So lists are great. They're easier to read than paragraphs, and if you let them know how many they're going to read, and I don't recommend above 10, then people really love that kind of content. Okay, I'm going to run through some ideas with you, and then I think at this point, after this, we can go into Q&A, and at that point, I am open to hearing any questions you have for ideas or anything else I presented. But once we get to that, I think it'd be kind of fun for everybody to pitch in with ideas. We had a really lively discussion after branding when so many people had some great ideas for each other. So I'm going to run through this list to kind of launch your own minds into coming up with ideas, and then we can kind of have a good discussion, hopefully as lively as last time. So content ideas, and this goes across all the channels, and I've covered a lot of these already. So new case studies, and you should be doing this anyway, and it should be on your website. So if you know of a customer or client and how their life has been impacted by what it is you provide, case studies are wonderful, and it's a great opportunity for people to learn more about you and realize what they're going to learn or get from you as well. Do you have a new product? Then content marketing is perfect for a product launch. I told you it shouldn't be self-serving, but that's still perfectly good content, and it's everybody wants to know if you have a new product or a new hire, anything like that. So it's not as self-serving as just every day posting, this is what we do, and click here to buy. Something new is fresh and interesting, and people want to know the latest thing. So new job openings, are you hiring? This is a great opportunity to let people know, and it's not even just to find good candidates, but it also lets people know that your business is thriving. And that you're doing so well that you need to hire additional staff. So that's really upbeat and definitely positive. Do you have any deals or promotions that you want to promote? People love those. Contests, there's all kinds of contests. I'm a big fan of doing social media contests because this is how you can get some of that user-generated content. So in the last cohort, we had a lot of food manufacturers, and so an obvious choice there is to do recipe contests right? And then you have all of these people providing you with amazing content. You can go ahead and pick a winner, but all those people will be thrilled that you're sharing their content. So contests are wonderful. It's also a great way to capture their email addresses. So it's definitely great for content. And then giveaways, even better. So we'll be giving away one of our products on Friday, so sign up here if you want to do that. And again, you're getting that email address. I don't know if you have a newsletter, but if you do, this is a great way to be gathering new people for your contact lists. Tips or best practices. So this isn't just, this is what our product or service is, but this is the best way to use it. And these are your best practices. Industry news, I've mentioned several times by now. I know you're going to have your Google Alerts set up and you're keeping an eye on your competitors. And this is a great way to, again, establish yourself as a thought leader and let people know that you are somebody they can rely on for good information. Surveys and survey results related to your industry. So I started this whole thing by pointing out how, a quick little survey is free or cheap and can give you amazing information. But you can do the same thing about your industry in general. And it doesn't have to be a survey that you created. There's plenty of surveys out there and that you can find and save and say, isn't this interesting? And how does this resonate for you? And do you feel this is true? And maybe get a conversation going. Listicles, remember the top 10, top 5, not top 100. Although you could do top 100. I do like to click on the ones that are like states ranked according to best, desserts or something like that. And then I'm immediately, I don't read all 50, but I'm scanning for New York, where I was born, New Jersey, where I was raised, Colorado, where I moved to as a teenager, and then California, where I spent most of my life, and now Hawaii. So these are all places, that I've lived. So I always want to see how they all rank with each other. So listicles can be a lot of fun. Trying to think of something. There must be something like even your own products. If you're selling more than 5 products, you can say here are our top 5, or which one's your favorite, that kind of thing. Team spotlight. So I mentioned several times, and with LinkedIn, and people want to know all about you. They want to know all about your staff. Some of your staff might be camera shy. That's okay. Don't force them. But people would love to know who it is they're dealing with, and it makes them feel connected and that you're real people and not just a screen or a box or whatever it is. So team spotlights are wonderful. And that doesn't necessarily mean somebody was just hired, but it could be somebody's retiring, it could be their birthday, it could be their promotion. So anything that has to do with your team is great content information. Customer photos and stories. Yay for customers who are willing to do this. That's wonderful, because these are also testimonials, and they're reviews, and that it lets people relate to your customer, and they can hear, well, this is why your company solved my problem. So that's great content. Anytime you can get them to do that. And it doesn't mean to like generally send out a mass email to all of your customer list saying, we're looking for people, whatever. But when somebody says to you, this is the best, whatever, say that would be great. Would you be willing to let us interview you, or would you mind writing a review or providing a testimonial? Can we use your photo? Some people don't want to do that, and that's fine. But those evangelists will be thrilled because they're so on board with you. Behind the scenes at your company, again, something you might think is routine and boring because they see it every day, is interesting to other people. Last cohort, we had a macadamia nut farm, and when in my last one-on-one with them, we just kind of came up with dozens of ideas for their content marketing. And when I pointed out to them, I moved here from California, and for a while I was working with companies in the wine industry. And something that we did there was to show the whole cycle of a vineyard. So the same is true for a macadamia nut farm or anything if you're growing something. So I was like, you need to be out there. Like, this is what it looks like when it's budding. This is what it looks like when it's flowering. This is what it looks like when we harvest. This is what it looks like in process. And like for them, they do that every day. It didn't occur to them that other people would find this interesting. The things you think are boring are interesting to other people because it's not their life. And it's like walking down the street at night and somebody has left their curtains open and you can peek into their house. It's like, aren't we all a little interested in what goes on in other people's homes? It's the same with businesses. So those behind the scenes content is really fun. And that, again, can also tie back into anything to do with the team spotlight. So you can do a little, we do little birthday videos when we present the cake and, you know, my coworker blows out the candles and that kind of thing. They're fun. Oh, you know what? I keep saying about the unboxing, but you know, we do sometimes around the holidays, and we sometimes get big gift baskets and that kind of thing from clients. And so we'll do little videos that show, ooh, look what we got, ooh, this and that. So all of those are great content. Interviews with company executives. That might feel awkward, but you're going to be interviewed because you're going to be so fabulously successful that you're going to be in the press. So why not start to learn how to do that by having control over the video that you're creating? So think about what people might find interesting, like where did your idea come for the company, and what are some of the obstacles that you faced, and what's it like now, and what are some things that you didn't expect? If you want to know how to do a good CEO interview, read CEO interviews. And then the thing about doing it for yourself is that you have complete control over it. You know what the questions are, and you've already written the answers. But you don't want it to be stiff. So, you know, make it a, you know, make it kind of easygoing. Try to get somebody who's either the interviewer or the director to know how to evoke that comfort from whoever's on camera. Just because somebody's a CEO doesn't mean that they're going to be great on camera. And sometimes I've had people, like, I make them physically shake. I've had people like ground their feet on the ground, and this is kind of hippie California me, but like, you know, let the energy go down to the ground and feel good, and, you know, whatever you can do. When you're doing it yourself, you have a little bit more over control than if the press is interviewing you. By doing this yourself, also, you're going to get more experience. And so then when you are interviewed by somebody outside your own company, you're going to be a lot more comfortable with it. And like I said, you're going to be successful and you're going to be interviewed. So start practicing it now. Where am I? FAQs, yes. I'm sure you've all been to FAQs, and then you obviously provide the answers. But then once you've developed an FAQ, you can also be using each one of those questions and answers in your social media. So I would recommend in the design of the graphic itself is where the question goes, and they have to read the post to get the answer. And then maybe there's a call to action in there. Another thing to keep in mind is, first of all, you should have an FAQ. Everybody's got questions, and you think that maybe something seems obvious to you because it's your business, but it's not obvious to other people. Anytime somebody asks you a question, whether it's through your email, if they've picked up the phone, maybe they've sent you a direct message through social media, if they've asked a question and it's not already in your FAQ, add it. So that's really important. Do you have any upcoming events? So, you know, we're starting to have in-person events again, so you might be doing something like that. But the majority of people are still doing online events. Is there something you can do online or offline as an event for your company right now? Daily, weekly, and monthly series. So remember the very beginning when I said something should be episodic. So if you're going to do something daily, weekly, or monthly, stick to it. And if you can't do something daily, just do once a month. So maybe it's like, hey, it's the first of the month and time to talk about whatever it is. Is there something related to your company that you could make into a series with your wonderful content? You could host an AMA. For those of you not familiar with Reddit, AMA means ask me anything. So you could have a little social media event where you host an AMA and just answer questions like they're tossed out to you. You don't have to answer anything rude or inappropriate. You can feel free to ignore those. Or, as I pointed out in branding, and how branding, customer service is an aspect of branding. So the way that you interact, the way you handle trolls also shows people the type of person you are and the type of company you are. And you can treat them firmly, you can treat them with humor, you can treat them with aloha, or you can ignore them. It's totally up to you. But an AMA can be really fun. Then social media takeover. This is a really, really fun idea. I think this cohort, out of all the ones I've participated in, might be a group that really connects with each other. We're going to have that party at Mita's at the end, but I'm also going to start, I think, a social media hui on Facebook where we can all stay connected and let each other know, hey, I just posted this, or I've got this discount, and support each other in that way. And one aspect of that is doing what's called the social media takeover. So it could be that, I get Mita to take over my social media for the day, and then I do hers, and you announce to all of your followers that this is happening, and you say, oh, this is going to be fun, but that other person is going to bring something fresh to the table that day, and your followers are really going to dig it. It's going to be really fun. So it's a really fun idea. And then finally, and this should be really obvious, which is to repurpose your content. You've already got a website and you've written for it and you've produced graphics for it. You probably have a brochure. You might have written articles. You should never just write or create one piece of content and use it in one fashion. Like, can I use this in social media? Maybe it's a social media post. Can I put this on my website? One thing you could also do is collect a lot of your social media content and assemble it and create a Word doc that becomes a PDF. Remember, I was telling you that a way to grab those names and reach out and get people to agree to market to them is to do a downloadable PDF. So take a look at all of your content and think if any of it, like little aspects, can be brought together to create this wonderful download that people will appreciate.
Yeah. Yes.
I believe I mentioned this is a case study of one of our clients, Impact Wealth Solutions. I mentioned them in branding. So they've got a newsletter that they do every month. And then I take that newsletter and I break it up. Usually there's 2 articles in it, and I will take those articles and break them up into anywhere from 6 to a dozen social media posts. And so I never give the whole article away in one post. So for instance, let's say they're doing the top 10 reasons you should use a financial advisor. So the first day I might do, the top 3, and then the next 3, and I break it up. And then there's a call to action in every posting if you want to join the newsletter, and that's how they can get in there. There is nothing in their newsletter about hiring them, 0, except for contact information. So this is really beautiful content marketing, because they're giving people who are interested in financial management, what to think about with your taxes. Did you just get a divorce, and how that impacts your finances? Are you planning retirement? At no point are they saying you should hire Impact to manage your retirement. They give enough information that people now know that they're a source of information for financial information. Like I said, see, these are examples where I've taken the newsletter and I've broken it up into social media posts. They also do webinars. So twice a month they do webinars. So they could be like this first one, that's Troy, and he's the leader of that company, and he does webinars on financial wellness. So here he's doing one on getting your financial household in order. Yes, the webinar begins with announcing who he is and his company, and it ends with their logo, but it's not a pitch for Impact Services. It's all about getting your financial household in order. They also do and this to me is purest of content marketing. They do Pauhana webinars. So Alice Inui, maybe some of you know of her. She's so adorable. So this one here is how to fully optimize 2022 for ultimate happiness. So there's no mention at all, except for at the beginning and the end of the impact logo. And they're providing content because part of what they have established as their branding is that family is very important to their clients. But it's not just that, it's not just their financial wellness, but their own mental wellness and their emotional wellness. And by giving their people content like this, they are underscoring that branding. And then financial wellness, we have another one from Dean Park. So this is a great example of wonderful content marketing where you know it's coming from impact, but at no point are you getting a sales pitch. You're learning something that's of value to you. I'm frozen. Okay, so I'm almost done. I'm not going to go through all this, although I will say I read Epic Content Marketing, this book over here. I read it on Kindle. It was, if I've not convinced you, if you're not convinced, then this is a really good book. It's very dense. I feel like I read this for you so you don't have to, but if for some reason you find this so interesting, that's a wonderful book. But everything else on this page, this is what you're going to get in the deck so that you can follow these links. But here's how to follow your brand awareness on Google Trends. Content Marketing Institute, that's the author of this book. That's where he comes from. They have a lot of great articles. So if you want to learn more about content marketing, I recommend you go there. All of the companies I mentioned for getting image sources are all listed right here. I kind of skipped through this earlier, but I really love public domain review. So public domain is when something has fallen. It's usually they have to be, I think, 70 years or older, and then something goes into public domain. So I've had clients where I've got to use some really beautiful work and that sort of thing from that website. So that's really fun. And then finally, at the very bottom here, I provided a link. Coca-Cola, whom I'm sure you know is a huge marketing company, they have shared their internal video on how they're going to be handling content marketing, and you might find that interesting. Anyway, I just want you to know that all of this is in the deck for you to refer to later. And now it's time for Q&A. And I see that a couple of people have already sent some questions through chat, so let's start with that. Oh, hey, Ed, Tom's River. Nice to meet you, Jersey boy. I grew up in Morris County, way up north, but then I finished high school in the Trenton area. So yeah, I'm a Jersey girl. And Renee just gave me a smile. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing. And now this is your chance to pick my brain or have any comments at all. Crickets? Do you start a web presence by identifying the content first? I have sketches and ideas, but definitely need help with website graphics design for the new business. No, you would not start your web presence by identifying your content first. At that point, you're going to be focused on your branding, which we went through. Then you also want to be thinking about the user experience that we also discussed in a previous class and how people are going to be navigating through your site. But when it does, then you're going to be thinking about the content. Besides having your basic information like about us, about your products, contact information, if you have a blog, that's where you're going to start thinking about content. You do want to have some basic content marketing on your website when you first start, but it might be something that builds as you grow. So although to me, I think content marketing is crucial, especially because remember, I'm that poet and I'm not easily swayed. So I want to feel like I can trust you, and content marketing does provide that if you're teaching me something that I want to learn. So you definitely want to develop that, but you don't need to be developing that at the very beginning.
On platforms where you're trying to use things like LinkedIn, how important what's the benefit of using your company presence to start discussion versus maybe principals or people that are associated with the company, and creating conversation more on a personal representative of the company versus the actual company. Does that make sense?
Yeah, oh, absolutely, it makes sense. And you can do both. And LinkedIn is one of those places where the way you post on LinkedIn personally is probably different from the way you post personally on Facebook. I have lots of opinions on Facebook that I don't share ever on LinkedIn. I rarely even will comment on things I agree with. I just want to, because I don't want my personal opinions to affect the potential clients, because that it doesn't affect me in my actual work. You know, like my political leanings, they don't mean I can't totally help you even if I don't agree with your platform. That's how I am as a profession, and I don't want people to doubt that on LinkedIn. You're going to have one set of connections as a personal person versus your company. Oh, but hey, thank you for bringing up LinkedIn, because I didn't mention something, which is one thing that's very specific about LinkedIn is what you're seeing in your feed on LinkedIn is completely dependent on who you're connected with. It's not like on Facebook where you're just seeing random stuff coming in. Same with Instagram or Twitter, where people you're not even following are showing up in your news feed. So you want to develop your connections on LinkedIn as well as you can. I know this is a content marketing class and not social media, and you'll probably learn more about that in social media, but LinkedIn is very specific in that manner that you need to. So go through your contacts list, make sure you're connected with everybody you know professionally. And when they suggest a connection, do it. This is not, okay. I was about to say something stupid. I was gonna say, this is not the place where you're gonna get creepy people in your DMs, but let's face it, this is life and you are, but it's not as bad on LinkedIn as it's going to be on other ones. So you can feel a little braver to accept connections on LinkedIn. So then you're going to have your connections as the company and personally, and you can do both, and you can refer to each other as well. Anybody else? How many of you are using content marketing right now? What are you doing, Mita? You're muted, so we can't hear you.
Well, I think we're starting to now. We've just taken over our social media. And so, well, I think we try to use it on our website. We've had a blog in the past on our site, and trying to figure out now, as I'm taking your course, is obviously very insightful, of like, what are these platforms and how to maybe integrate some content into it. It's also understanding what, under the different platforms. So the people that are following us on Instagram versus the people that we're connecting with on LinkedIn, it's very insightful to see your list of what is relevant content for those audiences. And we have access to that content, but I don't think we've done such a great job. We're just now ramping up. You'll just see in this past 2 weeks, we're just ramping up on our social media. And I think when I think we're mindful of trying to slip in the content into it. And this is insightful on how we're going to.
Wonderful. So what kind of content are you creating that's geared toward your audience?
So right now, we're a workspace. So we have insight into hybrid work models that are starting to come up. And so to me, those are the types of, we can pose ourselves as maybe having additional insight into what that model looks like, people that are flexible work employees or people that are digital nomads. And so we can speak to that audience about what trends are, or what are productive workspaces, and why maybe the home environment is not the best workspace, and why your office environment may not be the workspace that works for you anymore. So those are the kinds of things that I'm trying to think about, like how can we provide some sort of industry insight, or maybe expert insight into that. Yeah, and also just the benefits of having people around you and just having that kind of networking opportunity as well, and the opportunities for cross-pollinations of different industries to work side by side. Nice. So if a company like yours was working out of a space like ours, there's a lot of different industries that probably would plug straight into your company because, oh, we have an in-house marketing expert that I
Right.
could just walk across the hall and go consult with her and maybe get business that way. So those are kinds of things that I am trying to create content for. But trying to figure out the best way to, before we used to do it via blog, and I'm not sure if that has been as powerful. So trying to think of how social media and how our website will work for that.
You'd be a perfect example of case studies. If you know of anybody that's using that space and they've somehow connected and collaborated or helped each other, those would be great stories to be sharing on case study. Because if I were at work, I would not have met so-and-so who helped me, design a new logo or whatever it is. So if you can somehow find out how people are connecting through your space, that would be great content.
What platform would you put that content out on though?
All of them. Yeah. But definitely want to start with LinkedIn. I think, especially with your company, because that's what people do, right? They're there to work. So LinkedIn is going to be huge for you. And people are probably, if they're working in your space, I guarantee they're probably on LinkedIn. LinkedIn used to just be like your official resume, like people couldn't lie. You can't lie about your resume on LinkedIn. So that's how it used to be, but it's a lot more than that now.
I'm kind of thinking about something for you, Mita, just to kind of, I guess, invoke your thought on this area. But I think like what you're saying about how like a lot of people want to work from home, but it's not the most productive environment, but there still has to be, I think, in the transition back after COVID, like a little bit of give and take, I think, on both employer and employee. So I feel like if you reach out to companies and maybe, because I think employers don't want to have their employees working from home, forever. So maybe you could do some sort of partnership where employers could allow like a hybrid day, but they have to go to your space. And that way you can kind of have a list available on your social medias, like saying like, we have people coming in from this marketing firm. And obviously you don't have to give out the names or anything, but we have experts from all these fields that use our space. And that way, I think it's a lot like easier to visualize. Like if I go there, then maybe one of the days I'll run into someone that I can ask a quick question or something like that.
That's a really great idea. And Mita, you could even have things like, we're going to be doing a class on content marketing this Wednesday and that kind of thing. Because Laura from Monomeans is going to come in. I think it's a really great idea. Jenna, again, I think you should be in marketing because you always are thinking of ideas. So that's the kind of mind that would do really well in the kind of work I do. That's a great idea.
Yeah. And so we're trying to do things like lunch and learns around things like that. So if somebody in the industry, so if you wanted to come talk about human resources trends that are happening there, if you wanted to come talk about marketing, then it becomes like an informal exposure for companies, but also a way to share and talk story with people and interact. And again, because events are all ramping up again, we're trying to figure out how to push this out. But yeah, I definitely know that, Jenna, your idea about reaching out to employers I've always seen this could be, at least now post-COVID or at this point in COVID, to see that this has now become a perk, almost like an HR benefit. And this is something that I need to craft this message to HR professionals to figure out how to get that idea seeded.
I've got a question for you, Mita. Now that some of the mask rules are changing, how do you address the people who are still like, I wear my mask as soon as I leave my desk every day. As soon as I go outside, I'm on the bus, and I'm at risk. So I'm still playing it really carefully. So some people are going to think, oh, good, masks are off. Now I feel more comfortable going into a co-working space. And other people are going to be like, oh, no, masks are off and I don't feel safe there anymore. So I'm just curious how you guys are handling that.
Well, up until recently, we had a system where we had sanitizing stations everywhere. We actually had people on staff all day that we had a card system that if you sat in this space, you could take your mask off at your desk space. But if you went to common areas like the kitchen and things, we asked for people to wear their masks. But in between, if a person left, we would have somebody come and sanitize, or people have access to sanitizing things.
Oh, wow.
I will say that now that so we've been very good about all those protocols during the height of COVID. Now we have the materials available for people, and we are following the city and county guidelines right now. So we are leaving it up to the individual.
Yeah.
The great thing about our space is that nobody is really obligated to come to our space. People are choosing to, or they have a flexible membership. So people can choose whether or not they come into the space. For those that are coming into the space, they're choosing whether they want to wear a mask or not, or when they put their mask on and off, and we're leaving that up to the individual.
Yeah.
But we have brought back our member lunches. So we are on Wednesdays having pizza around a table together. So those that choose to plug into it are.
That's a great marketing point, and it kind of ties back to what Jenna's suggestion was. It's not mandatory to come here. People are choosing to come here. So that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Anybody else? So do you guys feel like this class has at least given you some ideas of some content you could create? Okay. Jenna, you're the last person who needs more ideas. So let me hear of some things that you think you're going to do now that you've heard about how wonderful it is to use content marketing.
I can go first, but I liked how, so our business is a lot of like people oriented, like we, we help people find jobs. So like we always say we're kind of the middleman, and we're really like, it's a really good resource for job seekers, or we're totally free for them. And I think it's like intimidating sometimes, especially for entry-level people, to like get out there and find a job, especially if you're not working. It's not like every single day you want to sit down and look for jobs and apply after like over and over again. So a lot of ours is like, we just do like a quick interview where we just kind of talk to them about like what they want to do and stuff. And then we kind of keep our eye out for them basically. So I think one way to improve like people, because a lot of people get intimidated by like staffing agencies and stuff like that. So I think a good idea for us would be to do like the meet the team type of thing where it's like on the personal level. So we could do short videos on our Instagram or something that's like, oh, what's your favorite place to eat in Kamakee or something like that, where people don't feel as like weird or unmotivated or something to talk to us just because, we're not offering them a job with our company, but it's like just a really quick and easy conversation that doesn't really hurt their job search. If anything, it only helps them. So I think like trying to like reduce that like barrier of people just wanting to talk casually would be a good idea to like have that personal level where people feel comfortable talking to us, I guess.
That's a great idea, as opposed to just filling out a form on Indeed or something and then just waiting for emails to pour in. Like people are going to get to talk to a real person when they
exactly. And they can kind of match like the names, like when we call them, they can look at our Instagram and see that we're like normal people. We're not super like strict or anything like that. And then I think it makes it a little easier for people to have like open communication with us. Man.
You could also, as a way of being educational, talk about like, tell us like, why is it better to go through an agency instead of just going to Craigslist or Indeed? Or...
Yeah.
Sorry. I was actually asking you what sets you apart from people just going to submitting forms.
So we post, Roxy posts our jobs and stuff on Indeed, and we post it on other platforms as well. So people can still apply directly for our jobs, but once they contact us, I think we could probably find a way to maybe make that like a little bit more clear. But once they contact us, we let them know like the position's not with our company. We actually have a ton of positions in this admin service realm. And then from there, we literally just sit down with them and ask them what they're looking for in their next role. Are they open to temporary? Are they only looking for direct hire? And then we always tell them, there's no pressure. You don't have to apply for anything that we have open right now. If anything, we can continue to keep our eye out for you. Or I think one of the best things about our jobs, like our temporary side, because we do have direct hire as well, but like people who are in between jobs or looking to move, sometimes, they end up settling and taking a job that's not everything they want in their next position, because obviously we all have to make money for our bills and all that stuff. And they end up committing long-term to a position that's not going to fulfill their goals long-term. So temping is a good way to just kind of like have like an income coming in while you're still continuing, or while we're helping you continue to look for something that you'll want to do long-term. So I don't know, there's like a lot of benefits to like temporary positions, and we have like a couple higher paying temps as well that I think people like are very dismissive at first to temping or staffing agencies. But I think it's like, once you explain that there's all these benefits to it, you know, you don't have to formally resign and restart your job search, and it's just kind of a good way to like do something in between. I think that's just like one of the things. It's just so easy for job seekers to work with us. Like, it's free. We basically tell them all these new positions that are opening. If they're interested, we introduce them to the hiring manager, help them set. It's like, I don't know, it's so easy like for job seekers on our end. I think it's just like getting them to like talk to us, and then I think once we have them contact us, it's a lot easier, I think, and they understand what we do. It's easy to work with them. But I think it's like people have this idea of like a staffing agency and temporary positions that they think that it's not going to look good on their resume. I don't know, something weird like that. But I think once you talk to them, it's like easy to explain. But I think it's hard to explain that without talking to people. I don't know.
Right. So that's one thing to think about, is how to get that all down into, you know, what an elevator pitch is, right?
Yeah.
In case none of you do, like an elevator pitch is like, you get onto the elevator, you realize you're standing next to somebody that you really want to work for or have as a client, and you've got, you know, 3 minutes until you get to the floor that you're getting off to get it all out as succinctly and non-obnoxiously as possible. So sounds like you need to maybe come up with that pitch. But I heard two things that were interesting to me. One is when you say that you actually check out all those sites like Indeed and Craigslist, or where all those jobs are listed, that you could sit down and figure out how long does it take to the average job applicant to hit all of those sites every day. Because I've been a job hunter before, you know, and I view it as a job when I'm looking for a job, but there's just so much you can do. But it could take me like 3 or 4 hours just to be checking all those sites every day. And not only the sites, but maybe I want a job with UH or something like that, and they have a whole separate thing. So like you could have an interesting little graphic that shows somebody like the amount of time it took for one person to look at all those things, and then how easy it was to work with you, and that you know, your person called you, you know, once a week to check in with you or whatever. And you know, it's like that's a huge benefit to working through you. The other thing is, sorry, I cut you off, sweetie. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying, it's like, we literally do it for you, and then we call you when we find something that you told us that you'd be interested in. It's like so easy. Like, I don't know.
Let somebody else do all the work to find you a job.
Yeah.
The other thing is about temping. I've been a temp before. I love being a temp, and every single time the company I was working for would say, "Wow, I can't believe like what a great job you're doing." Usually temps kind of half-assed or whatever. Yeah. And I always said, I may be temporary, but my work isn't, you know? So I think you could do a whole thing, especially for young people. Like maybe they don't know what they want to do. Maybe they think they want to work in an ad agency, but working for an ad agency for 2 weeks. Like I once wanted to be an architect, and I started college and I got a job at an architectural firm, and that cured me of wanting to be an architect. Basically, because you work for somebody else for, you know, 20 years, unless you can afford to start your own agents or architectural firm, like you're just going to be doing the drawings for somebody else's designs for the rest of your life. And that sounded horrible. So being a graphic designer, I get a little more input into the design because it's not somebody's home or building. So, so for me, like, and trying out different industries and that kind of thing, it seems to me that putting some focus on marketing the benefits of temping, including, by the way, you find out it's not a good fit. And so the next job, you know what? I don't know if I want to work for attorneys anymore, you know, or whatever it is. So I think there's a lot of focus you can do on what's so awesome about temping and temps. Yeah,
we could definitely do a post about that. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Just to knock it out.
Yeah. And you can steal my line.
Nice. Perfect. We'll line credit you. No, it's royalty free, but
attribution, Laura. Hi, Ed. How come we're not hearing you? You're not muted. I know you have something brilliant to share with us.
Hi, can you hear
There
me?
you go. Yes.
Okay. Hey, thank you for a great presentation, and I took lots of notes, and I have some questions. So with content marketing, is it okay for like with Instagram? So I asked the question about, you know, posting on both platforms, IG and Facebook. Is it a good practice to just repost everyone else's photos that are tagging us and instead, because I'm kind of lazy, I don't want to put new photos,
No,
so I just repost everyone else's.
no, that's not lazy. That's user generated content, in case anybody challenges you. Absolutely. But remember what we've been talking about is about the internet just in general being a reciprocal world. Like even when he was talking about SEO and how inbound links and outbound links, and Google knows the difference if you're just asking a friend to do it as opposed to somebody in authority. So the way you build that community is to share other people's content, and they will be flattered and delighted. And as far as using content across different platforms, what I usually recommend is you start with Facebook and write your Facebook post, because people on Facebook have the longest attention span. So that's where you can get the most information out. Then you can edit it down, maybe scrape some of the more flowery marketing terms, and that's for LinkedIn. But maybe scrape it a different way so that it's, you know, lighter and more lifestyle for Instagram. Right. And then even different for TikTok. So I think, but if you start, because Facebook's going to be the big meaty one. That's the one I start with, because it's easier to edit stuff out than add to other things. So if you start with Instagram and then have to build it up to have a little more meat, but for Facebook, that's a little harder. So.
Okay.
I know like the last or a couple classes ago, I brought up how like our company sometimes like we have to market to different demographics kind of simultaneously. And today I was thinking about how, you know, you said we can post the same thing, but tailor it to different things. And I'm thinking about how Facebook, the demographic is different than Instagram and stuff like that. So that could be a good tool for you to Ed or everyone. You know, you could use Facebook to target the demographic that, you know, is older or something like that, and then use Instagram to tailor more to the lifestyle or something like that, more like picture friendly, like at the beach having wine sun type of things. And then but yeah, I just thought that was like a good thing that I realized today, is that you can, like you said, tailor them to each thing, and then you're hitting different demographics all at the same time.
Yeah,
which was interesting.
And Ed, because you have a product that's been around and it's kind of iconic, you know, you've got people that are going to have nostalgic emotions around your product too. And so maybe that's Facebook audience. If they're, you know, that more mature audience, the ones that maybe want some throwback products, that's like, you can totally cater to that, you know, nostalgic audience there. And for the Instagram or the TikTok, you can have the fresh new twist on what you have or the products over there. So you've got, I mean, you've got just this wonderful spread of things that you can do with your product.
And then for LinkedIn, Ed, you could be talking about this, how merchandise is taken off. Like that's a business report, you know, that's all business related. And it also would be exciting to other people to read about it, because they'd be like, wait, you know, like, is there something I haven't thought of that I could be doing? You know, why did it take Hawaiian Sun so long to think of doing this? You know, maybe everybody should have merchandise. So that's a really good post right there, just talking about what's going on with that.
Okay, thank you.
And also, by the way, like the other day when you asked us who do we think is the most popular flavor, that's perfect for social media right there. There's one of your polls, you know.
Yeah, that's been a good one, especially like on stories, because you can use all the poll you know, widgets.
Yes.
To generate, you know, response.
I am so bad about looking at stories. Like one of the things I don't like about stories is it tells the person that you saw it. And like, what if I didn't like it? And then they're going to ask me what I think, and they know I saw it and I didn't like it, and I don't want to tell them I didn't like it. So I know that they're popular and effective, and I need to use them more. And also the thing that, sorry, but this is such a personal event, but I also don't like how they disappear so quickly. And like, sometimes I want to, and you have to scroll back or try to find it again. And I want somebody to let me watch it again and make it a little easier. So thank you for the reminder that I need to be getting more involved with stories. I know most of you really love them. Yeah. Yeah. Hi, Renee.
Hi, Laura. Okay, so I'm listening to everyone's, questions, Q&A, great tips. Jenna, thank you. But I'm also thinking about for my business, because I don't have anything established yet. I don't have any type of product yet. And so I just thought about how can I, because there's so many different platforms that I would have to touch upon. I think I do have a Facebook for my line. But as far as like when I launch, like what kind of, I guess, content marketing would I start with? Because I know there's so many different touch points, like a Q&A thing, like what kind of prints you might like, what kind of styles. So I'm just kind of like all over the place.
Well, definitely start with the origin of your story and how learning how to design helped you through the grief process. That's a huge story right there, and people will connect with you. And I'm sure you've heard me say something along these lines many times before. Like, I don't think people should be exploited, but this is something you're choosing to share with people, and they will relate to it. And so I would start with that. But then, how do you come up with your textile patterns? So tell us how you do that. What inspires you? Why did you choose the colors you did? All of these things, because you're just beginning, would be really interesting. So that's about you personally. But you can also talk about more general things like, do you just do clutches? Do you have messenger bags or whatever it is? Like the best, like what do you do with your clutch when you're in a nightclub and you dance? Do you take the clutch with you to the dance floor? Like, I'm just thinking of random old things. I'm a big messenger bag fan, because that way it's always on me and I don't have to worry about it. But just like, things like that. Or, does your purse have to match your shoes? Like when I was growing up, all our mothers were from the 40s and the 50s, and like that was a thing, your belt and your shoes and your bag match. And now that's not so much the case. And you can be like, look at the Met Gala we just had. You could be, were any of them carrying bags? If so, like, let's see them, and you could have an opinion about them. And that's not content you had to create, but you can comment on, so like right now, start paying attention to if anything pops up when you're looking at social media or watching TV or in a movie or whatever it is, and you see a handbag, and think about how you could talk about that. You could also be talking about where your bags manufactured, and have you taken films of it? Can you, if it's here in Hawaii, you could probably do that. If not, maybe whoever's manufacturing them for you could give you video or something like that. So I'm not a huge fashion person, but when I do buy things, well, they fall into two categories. They're either, if something's trendy, I buy the cheap version, because it's not going to be in fashion a year from now. So why would I spend a lot of money? But something like a purse, I want it to last forever. So I want to see, like, up close, how good is that stitching and that sort of thing. So like, I'm not really into labels, but I'll always rely on like Coach to give me a bag that's going to last a long, long time. So like, you can talk, like when I save film, I mean, like show those little details. And then if you've come up with that little, remember we talked about dream branding, maybe you have a little metal tag or something, like the end of the video, that little tag is being attached to the purse. And that's another little attempt to get your branding in again. But I think people like to see how their products are made, and yours is, obvious. Great idea for content to do that.
Yeah, I think for me, as I'm thinking about all these things, I'm just thinking about when I'm going to be doing it. Like, at what stage do I do this? Because I want to do everything all at once, you know, but I do know that it has to be staged and timed, and I don't know, maybe random at some point, you know, because it just really depends who's looking at your site at what point, you know, in your, I guess, like say production, you know, or if it's something that's going to be launched. It just really depends, you know, because I'm not established yet. So I think for me, it's there's so many things I have to work on first.
And definitely you should be, like I said this to everybody, but definitely if you're brand new, look at what your competitors are doing and steal their ideas. And look at what their social media is. It doesn't, you don't have to copy it, but you can get ideas for it. So, and it's a lot. You're, especially at the beginning, you're taking on so much. It's a lot, and I get that. So when you first launch it, and all of your content, your social media, it can be about how exciting it is to launch my new company. And every little thing you announce, people are going to be cheering you on. So you should feel free to share all of those things. You know, like, look, the new, here's the design I just did. And then when you get the first roll of, I'm making stuff up. I don't know what actually your process is, but maybe you get like that whole roll of the fabric the first time. And that's not quite an unboxing, but it is kind of a reveal. And you go, do you ever watch, help me, you guys, it's on Bravo with the fashion designers competing. Project Runway. Okay, oh, yeah. So there's always a challenge where they have to design their own textile, and the day that the yards arrive and they get to see, it's really exciting and fun for them. It would be exciting for your customers too. So all of those little things that, like you're listing, like there's so much to do, but all those things are probably going to be interesting to somebody to hear about, and they're invested in your success. So, you know, just get people on board.
With products, I feel like the build up to the release date is a huge, like, fun part and crucial to the success of the launch. And I think too, like, because you want your launch, like you want, I guess, you know, if you're releasing the product at 9 a.m. on this day, you want people on your site at 9 a.m. So something you could do to encourage them too is, like, when you do find that date, you could say the first 20 people to order will also get a free little something small on the side. Like maybe you can make, if you have extra fabric, like a little AirPods case or like tissue holder. I don't know, something like that, where it's like you want people to like rush to buy it instead of being like, oh, it comes out, I'll just buy it. You know what I mean? Like you want them to have a motivation to get in there, like right on the launch, I feel like.
Eyeglass cases. Sure. Always good to have matching eyeglass cases.
Oh yeah.
So So with the what Jen was saying about previewing and marketing the launch date for your bags is a great way to go about it, because is a real thing that happened with recently. So Powwow, the art group Powwow Hawaii, they launched these NFTs, and they spent weeks, months, like 4 to 6 weeks of just like hyping it up, the NFTs, because there was a limited number of these NFTs and they were at a set price. And when they launched it, it sold out in a minute. They sold thousands of NFTs at a set price. And then the reselling began. And then people were selling them, and it was like $70 for an NFT, and it went up to like 2,000. And then you could track to see the value of each of these. So they did all this pre-planning, and they sold out in a matter of minutes. So you could use that as a reference, like for a limited supply of bags that you're going to launch, and hype it up. I like using the term hype beast for everything, just building all that hype, guerrilla marketing and hyping it. That's the way to go.
Love that idea, Ed. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. That's a great idea too. I think just have to I just have to put all the pieces together and make sure that I have the stock, just getting the prototype stage is a big challenge for me right now. The factory the company that's going to be sewing my handbags, they ran into a little snag with an emergency project. And so that's kind of pushing my timelines back. I don't really have definitive timelines just yet, but I think once I can get that, then hopefully get in the groove of offering the limited edition supply of handbags and so forth.
They're really limited right now.
Yes, very.
And I know that you don't have a corporate presence yet, but are you sharing your experience of building this business with your friends on your personal accounts? Yes. Good, because they're going to be the ones, your first followers. They're, because it's almost like, because they're your friends, they're already going to be your advocates. It's like in that funnel when you come down all the way down to, like, not only do they love you, but they're telling other people. So it's wonderful that you're sharing a step by step. Like, you can even be saying, the prototypes are held up, because then they're invested and they go, oh, what she's been through, and they really want you to succeed. So by the time you go live with your corporate, which should be separate from your personal, you'll have a built-in audience. And then you can even have, like on the first day or two, like a little video with clips of like every little thing, all the steps that it took to get you here, including delays. And everybody's got delays going on now because of shipping and gas and finding it hard to hire people and all those things that a lot of people are experiencing. And that'll be interesting. And then the fact that you got through all that and now have a live site and a live business will be really happy for people. People will be happy for you.
Thanks, Laura.
Sorry, I set my clock to tell me when we had 5 minutes. Sorry about that. So we do have 5 minutes left. Does anybody else have any questions? You'll be picking my brain during our one-on-ones anyway. And by the way, when we do the one-on-ones, it's not just strategic. It's not just content marketing or branding. You could also have an opportunity to have one-on-ones with our CEO, Janet. So she's really great with strategic marketing, especially if you're a brand new business. That might be some help. Sometimes I have people meet with her first if I feel like you might need that. Some of you are more well established, like Ed, you might want to talk to somebody about, the particular challenges of doing this offshoot of a larger established corporation, whatever it is. But if you didn't get any ideas today, trust me, we'll come up with plenty of ideas in our one-on-ones. Anybody else got any questions? Shall we call it a wrap for today and let you out 4 minutes early? Okay, sounds good. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, you too.
Okay, thank you so much.
Of course. Nice to see you. Bye.
All right, bye.